Hola, this is the Getting to Ramen podcast, and I'm Joshua Anderton. Hey, so I've been getting some really good feedback on Twitter about the podcast, which really means a lot. My goal with this thing was to try and launch it, see if I get any type of a response, and then basically decide whether it's worth continuing or putting more time into it. And just had a few people say that, reach out and say that the content has really resonated with them, specifically around being a solo founder, having a family, and trying to grow this thing while I've still got a day job and all that. So that's been pretty cool, and it means a lot. So I started working on an intro. I'm gonna continue to record these things on my commute, just because that's still the only time I've got to spend on it. But I decided having an intro and an outro might at least sandwich it with some quality, and I can put in some time and get those in place and hopefully kind of set the mood with an intro. And I'm looking forward to that. I've already posted kind of the first version of the intro and to see what people think, and I got some feedback on that. I don't know if I'm going to add it to this episode. You'll know by now. So that's kind of a little update on where I'm at with the podcast. Another great piece of feedback I got was one of the guys on Twitter, Frederick. He said that he wanted to hear a bit more about how Upscribe was started and some of the struggles and things that I've learned along the way. So Upscribe is a newsletter sign-up tool for Medium. So it's a tool that lets you build forms that can embed directly into your Medium stories. So you can collect emails and grow your mailing list, or lead generation and stuff like that. Initially, the reason that I built it was really just I wanted to. I had learned from a few past failures prior to Upscribe that the best thing to do was to talk to a potential customer first. So talk to real people first. But something I had also learned, which I think that is not quite as common knowledge or as popular knowledge, is if you don't have something to show people, then they're not really going to take you seriously. And so I know that a lot of people say, just talk to customers and get feedback first before you build anything, before you even write a line of code. Well, in my experience, one of the prior failures that I had, or failures in quotations, because I learned a lot from it, was I had built a tool, or I built a landing page claiming that I had built a tool called Muse Pages, and what it was just a really basic WordPress theme that has like a lead generation form and some really basic details on a landing page. And so what I did was I decided I was going to create the landing page and actually put a sales page up and see if people would pay for it before I started building anything. Basically how I had it set up was you click buy now, it takes you to what looks like a pricing page, and you're essentially committing to paying $9 a month was what I had it at. And then it just says, thanks so much for agreeing to pay. This isn't built yet, but I'll let you know when it is. And I thought that this was genius because I was getting actual feedback. Like people were really telling me, oh yeah, I'll pay for this. And that was really helpful. The problem was I had committed to building 50 of these landing pages to start, and then adding one every month. And so they were subscribing for access to all these landing pages. Well, I just hadn't, I think I had 2 or 3, so I just wasn't able to follow through once people said that they were going to pay for it. And it was just taking so much work, even though there were people that wanted it. There wasn't quite enough demand that even if I did go through and build all those landing pages, people were that I was going to make enough money. So anyway, so this thing fell through. But I learned that I always want to have something to show people. And that's whether that's a minimum viable product, and there's a lot of debate around what constitutes a minimum viable product, but to me it was just something that I could put in the hands of people that kind of had the caricature of the product, just kind of like the most important piece, so that people could get an idea of what value it was going to bring. Anyways, I decided that moving forward, that's how I had to build things, was build a very quick version of what I think the product is going to be, put it in people's hands. And I think that it's just like, unless you have a serious audience in the space that you're going into, which most people don't, and I certainly didn't, you really don't have a lot of authority or credibility to when you go and say, hey, I'm building this thing, what do you think? And it's like, it's not worth their time. And somebody sends me a message and says, hey, I'm thinking about building this thing, what do you think? It's like, yeah, sure, whatever. I'd like versus, hey, I built this thing, what do you think? Would you use it? And I think it's just like, to me, it's showing that you're willing to do the work, and you're not only are you trying to solve a solution, you don't just have an idea, you're like, hey, I know you have this problem, and I'm willing to actually do the work to solve the problem for you, even if the problem hasn't been solved completely with what you're presenting. And so that's what I did with Upscribe. I built something that I thought was solving a problem for email marketers. At the time, Noah Kagan had launched this email marketing group on Facebook. It was a course that had a Facebook group associated with it. And so I had this community that I was a part of, and I had access to all these email marketers. And so I figured, well, I don't have an audience in this space, but I'm a part of this group that's... Okay, I was interrupted by a phone call. Now I'm not sure what I was talking about. Oh yeah, so I was in this email marketing group, and I decided, I have this group that I'm a part of, I may as well try and build something for them. So I built a tool, and all it was at the time was a prototype I put together in WordPress that lets you build a newsletter landing page in a few clicks. So it was just, you have a newsletter already, you put in the name of your newsletter, and didn't even have a color. It was just a preset color, had like the same orange that I'm using today, which I took from Reddit, because I loved that Reddit just had the hex code, instead of like an RGBA or a hex code, it was just orange red. And I just loved that it was so simple, but it looked great. So I took that, and so it was just one color, and you could put it in a heading, and I think a description at the time, and then it just gave you a form, and people submit their email, and it just goes into the database that you could export afterwards. I didn't even build an integration with MailChimp or any of that. I just figured I really wanted to. I knew people would want an integration with MailChimp, but I decided to launch without it, and wait for people to ask for it. And so it probably took me a day to put this thing together. But when I went to the group and said, like, hey, I built this thing, what do you think? I actually got real people that tried it out and said, hey, this is cool, but it'd be great if I could embed this into my Medium stories. And Medium at the time was just taking off. or had just taken off. This would have been, well, it's 3 years ago. So anyways, I'm got this feedback, and it was really just two or three people that said they wanted this, and so I looked into it, and turned out Medium had just acquired Embedly, which made it really easy to get supported as an embed provider for Medium. So I submitted it. Took about a week. I really didn't have to do much. I just had to support the OEmbed API, and then it was live, and I didn't really think much of it. I mean, I was hoping that this was something other people wanted too. But after I had done that, because it was so early, Medium put this on in their help blog, or their help articles, knowledge base, and in their one of their publications. So all of a sudden I'm getting traffic. I think I had 100 users that, I didn't pay for, didn't look for. They just came from Medium, and got some feedback. People wanted to add a color, so I added support for that. But then I noticed I was getting traffic from Product Hunt. I noticed this in Google Analytics. This was a few weeks after launching it. And so I went on Product Hunt, and sure enough, somebody had shared it. Someone had created a post for Upscribe. And so then I'm scrambled to get some images together and some screenshots. And this is when things kind of changed. So I hit number 1 for the day on Product Hunt. So then within a week I had 1,000 new users, and this is all of a sudden enough people that were using it that I could get some serious feedback and start building it. So that was when people were requesting MailChimp, when I actually added that integration. But and I can get into more about revenue and all that kind of stuff, how that started later. But that's essentially how I started Upscribe. It was really, was when I finally got to the place where I was asking people for feedback, and based on that I built something rather than starting with an idea that I thought people needed. So yeah, that's that.